Evangelical pastor who is now an atheist. In 2019, he was diagnosed with ALS, a terminal illness. He is spending the time he has left traveling and speaking about living fully and approaching death as an atheist. He co-hosts a weekly YouTube call-in show and recently published the book, Childish Things, a memoir. Carpe the fucking diem.
Hey folks, I'm on my spot. I don't have to stand behind this podium. Every now and then I have to take a drink of my water, so bear with me on that. It's after I've talked for a couple hours here, it'll get a little raspy. That's a joke I've worn out. So I've actually only got 20 minutes, so I don't have a lot of time for jokes. At first I was like, they gotta give me 20 minutes, but then I realized I've really only got 20 minutes of voice left. So my voice is just about shot. So I'm going to spend the last 20 minutes of voice I have on you. Not my whole life, but today. That's the first death joke. I make the death jokes because people don't know what to do with my ALS. I found that to be a thing that bothers a lot of people. They don't know how to talk about it. If they can talk about it, they certainly can't laugh about it. I'm going to blow Matt's cover because Matt follows me in a little bit, and he told me he was going to make a death joke, and then realized, you know what, I better not do that. Dave might laugh, but no one else might. But I found that if I use humor to deflect a little bit, people are a little more comfortable talking about a subject that is mostly uncomfortable. But when I do it, and I'll make a joke like that, I find the audience, they're in there, they're like this. Do I laugh? I don't know if I can laugh. And he's laughing. Is it okay to laugh? And it's okay to laugh because the reality is it's something I've made peace with. It is who I am. It's what's happening. I'm actually living a lot longer than I originally thought I was going to. When I was diagnosed in 2019, I thought I would have, they tell you you've got 3 to 5 years to live. And I realized a couple of those years at the end would be really bad, and in a bad, unable to do anything. And I wasn't interested in that at all. So I thought, well, I've got maybe 2 years, maybe 1, maybe 3. And so, I thought I better get to living. And that's when we started saying carpe the fucking diem, which is Greek for, that's Latin for seize the day. And so that's what I started trying to do as much as I could. The Dying Out Loud work I do, if you're familiar with that, it's speaking like this, YouTube, podcasts, wrote my book, my memoir. All of that is an effort on my part to get my message out, which is, we're dying. All of us. I hope that's not a shock to any of you. The difference is some of us are living and some of us are not. Some of us are making the most of every moment we have, and some of us are just muddling through the days, kind of getting by. Not really focused on living. One of the things I started saying a lot was that this diagnosis, this cards, this hand that I'd been dealt, in some ways was a gift. And it may sound odd to say that, but what it did is it caused me to focus in ways that I'd never done before on living, on carpeing the fucking diem, on not wasting the moments that I have, on making the most of every opportunity. And when I started talking about that to people on shows, in person, I started hearing back from people that it really was helping them. And I've heard from many of you that it helps you process your life and your death. I've said many times, dying is nothing more than the natural result of living. It's nothing to be afraid of. You're going to go to sleep and not wake up. I like sleep, so that's not a bad thing, to not wake up. And the cool thing about dying, have you ever heard that before, is that you're not going to be aware that you didn't wake up. You won't be going, oh my God, I didn't wake up, I must be dead. You're just not going to wake up. You won't have consciousness, as best we understand it. Who knows what really happens, but I don't think there's anything beyond the final curtain. We just cease to exist like we were before we were born. So what I want to talk about today, the title of it, if I have to give it a title, might piss some of you off, but I'm dying, so I can do that. It's called Speak Up and Stand Up and Speak Up. And what I'm going to encourage you to do in the few minutes that I have here is to quit being ashamed or embarrassed about your non-belief around anyone. Now, I'm going to throw a few disclaimers in there because I know that some of you are in dangerous situations or really difficult situations where that's really hard to do, to come out. I'm talking about just being who you are, being honest about who you are, unapologetically, unashamedly, and unembarrassedly. This is who I am. And that's hard when you're surrounded by family members who are opposed to that. Some of you, I know, have family members and friends and coworkers that have no clue that you don't believe in God, that you're a nun. I love it because when I was telling people, where are you going this weekend? I'm going to go speak at a conference. Oh, what's it called? Nashville Nuns. So, you're Catholic? No, not the kind of nun. We can use the word nun, most of us, freely. But using the word atheist is scary for many of us. And I understand all the reasons why. I do. But I think we're living in days in this country where we can no longer afford to be silent. This country is on a headlong march toward Christian nationalism, Christo-fascism, and they're not going to stop. Those people who are doing that are not interested in stopping until every one of us bow our knees to their God. And if we don't, they're just fine with us being removed. They want all the laws to be Christian. They want all the policies to be Christian. They're fine with taking away basic human rights, women's rights, gay rights, all kinds of rights. They don't care as long as you follow their dictates. And if we're not speaking up, then they're going to continue to think there's only 7% of the country identifies as an atheist. That's kind of what the numbers tell us. About 7% of us identify as atheists. About 25% identifies none of the above. That's the fastest growing demographic. We know that. But they can casually sweep aside the none definition as a harmless non-entity. In other words, those nuns probably don't care about anything. So we don't have to pay attention to them. We don't have to worry about their vote. We don't have to worry about our laws upsetting them. Well, until we start speaking up, that's not going to change. What do you risk? A lot. It's hard to do. But I'm going to read you something. I'm going to take a couple minutes. I hardly ever read something. Bevan said, you wrote something down? You never do that. But I needed to today. I felt like it was important. So, this is in a handy pocket-sized edition, which I can give to you for $5.99, available at my table. No, I don't have anything like that. Here's what you can say to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your daughter, your coworker, your next-door neighbor. Just as an option. I'm an atheist. This is what you're saying to them, okay? But that's only a small part of me. That's not really who I am. It's only my response to the God claim. Other than that, I'm a human. If you must define my worldview, I would be a humanist. I believe in the value of all humans and that we carry the answers within us. That means that we carry the privilege and the responsibility for how we conduct ourselves and how we move society forward. If you say you're a Christian, mom, brother, whoever, I take that to mean that you carry a certain set of beliefs. A belief is a thought that we cherish, nothing more. A belief is not a product or a commodity. You can't go down to the corner store and get a 6-pack of beliefs. You can't buy or sell them. It's not tangible. It's a thought. Think about it. That's all a belief is. It's a thought. And a thought that you cherish becomes sacred and can easily become a dogma. And that's a problem. Now, you can carry this further, depending on who your family member is. If you're an evangelical Christian, that means that you believe that God sacrificed himself to save himself from himself. Now, that might piss him off, but keep going. And what he would do to us if we didn't believe. It's a belief that Jesus died to save us, and that we needed to be saved, that we are lost, simply by virtue of the fact that we were born. We were born with a sin nature because the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, in parentheses, I say it's probably fictional characters, but probably don't say that to your evangelical family members, chose to eat a piece of fruit after being told by God not to, even though they didn't know the difference between right and wrong. Think about that for a minute. Somehow that makes sense to you. Hang on, I gotta get this paper. Yeah, I got it. Somehow that makes sense to you. Or if it doesn't, you choose to believe it anyway. It doesn't make sense to me, though I must admit it once did. But I've changed my mind. That's all. I didn't become evil or angry or mean. I just changed my mind about the God claim. Other than that, I'm no different than you. I'm kind, compassionate, generous, loving. Only so those things if you are those things. Don't lie. If you're an asshole, you say, I'm an asshole, but no, I'm an atheist asshole, not a Christian asshole. And I care about the world around me and the people in it. If you want to look at me differently or treat me differently, because I've changed my mind about the God claim, I hope you'll consider this. You reject all other God claims other than your own. You're as much an atheist as I am. I just believe in one fewer God than you. Now, depending on who the person is that you're saying that to, it might not go well. It might not. I understand that. I have paid a stiff price, personally, for being honest about who I am. And I've looked back on that. I came out as an atheist. I came to the conclusion about 12 years ago that I didn't believe in the God of the Bible anymore. And with that, I pretty much discarded all need for religion or spirituality or a God or a deity. I just said, oh, okay, I don't need any of that. I'm good. I'm good without it. Let's see where this goes. So, when I came to that conclusion, I felt an obligation, and you may not feel this, and that's fine. Again, I'm offering suggestions. I'm not telling you what you have to do. I am saying, in strong terms today, that I think this country is in bad trouble, and that there are forces trying to take it over for God. And again, until more of us speak up and make our presence known and stand up for who we are and quit being ashamed of it or embarrassed about it, things are not going to change at the level and to the degree you need them to. So this is where I'm coming from. And I'm speaking from my own experience, and it's important for you to know that. I came to the conclusion there was no God, and I decided that it was very important for me personally to let the people in my life know that. I didn't want them thinking something about me that was no longer true. I've been a very dedicated, committed Christian, very active with my faith, and once I no longer was that, I didn't want friends and family members to think, well, Dave still believes like we do. He just doesn't go to church anymore. There's a lot of people doing that. There are a dime a dozen. I said it with my kids. I told my best friends. I wrote a letter to my best friends, and I said, this is it. I came to the conclusion it's not real. It was very important for me to be authentic, to be honest, to not hide behind their opinion of me. Did I think it was going to change their opinion of me? Oh, hell yeah. And it did. I lost most of those friends. And most importantly, I lost family members. It ended my marriage. 2 of my 3 kids, my 2 daughters, cut me off completely. One of them has come around in the last couple of years, but I have a daughter, and I'm going to personalize it. I knew I shouldn't do that. Her name's Ferris. She's wonderful. But she didn't talk to me. And I haven't seen her 3 kids in 6 years. And I've got a grandson I've never seen. Would I change that? If I could go back and be quiet about my atheism in order to gain back that relationship, would I do it? I've asked myself that a lot of times. I'm talking like a mouse now. I always thought it'd be fun to just do falsetto all day. Hey Gail, how's it going? And just watch the faces. What's wrong with him? I may do that one day. I've asked myself that question, and I wouldn't, because I can't not be honest. I just can't. It's not in me. And it's worth too much. And I would rather go to my grave, which is fast approaching, knowing that I was honest with my kids, so that they can look back and say to their kids, maybe someday, Pops was honest. He lived his convictions. He was authentic. And that is worth more than the relationship. It has to be. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing? So that I can pretend to be something I'm not, so that they like me a little better or treat me a little better. I'm a phony. I'm a phony. I don't want my grandkids to think of me years down the road as some phony. And so when they read my book, and Bevan is determined that they will, they're going to know that I went to my grave being the best person I could be and being the most honest, authentic version of myself. So I'm making this really personal today because I'm so troubled about the land we live in. I've talked to so many of you in the last year or two, and I hear things like, I can't live in this country anymore. I'm moving to Costa Rica. I'm moving to Europe. I can't do this. This is not the country I want to live in. This country doesn't care about anybody, and it's going down the tubes, and I can't. We can take that route, or we can do everything we can to make a difference, to raise our voice and to say, I am not of that tribe. Do not think of me as one of them. There's a poem that I refer to all the time called My Soul Has a Hat. The last line of it says this: we have 2 lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only have one. This is it, folks. This is the one shot we get. You have the ability, you have the responsibility to write your story. If you're not happy with how it's being written, that's on you. It's not on some fictional God, it's not on some spiritual authority, it's not on some family member who you're desperate to please. It's on you. Write your story. Thank you.